You guys ready to play Pogs? Welcome to Pegwarmers. I'm Kevin, and I'm here to talk about toys. This week, we're talking about Pogs. You know them, you love them, the milk cap craze from the 1990s. This episode will also feature a toy news segment, as well as new to the collection. If you were around in the 90s, you remember the World Pog Federation. This was a company that held events and manufactured Pogs, these cardboard coins with graphics on the front to play this game of winning and losing caps, right? It was based on a game possibly started in Hawaii. There's some conflicting things there in the 20s and 30s, but basically old milk bottles used to have cardboard caps. Eventually they got phased out for new packaging, but the caps became a commemorative thing, and then eventually a company started making Pog juice, passion fruit, orange, and guava, and the popularity of the game kind of came back. And then Pogs just were sold here in the U.S. Mainland as just a collectible thing, like trading cards, basically. The World Pog Federation started in 1993. And from 94 to 98, Pogs was pretty much a huge thing in American pop culture. If you wanted to promote something, if you had a brand, you probably had Pogs. If you never played Pogs, both players would bring a stack of caps with them, match up an equal number, stack them up upside down. You'd take a thicker cap called a slammer, whack the stack, they'd go flying in the air, and any that landed face up with the cool artwork facing up, that player would take. You'd restack the ones that were still upside down, and the next person would go. You'd play until all the caps had flipped, you'd count up to see who had the most, and that person was the winner. Now, the version that got kids in trouble with schools and got Pogs banned in a lot of schools, besides them just being a huge distraction in class, was the fact that kids were sort of gambling. If you each brought 5 Pogs with you, and the winner kept the ones they won, you walked away with less than 5 Pogs. Right? See the problem? I never played it that way as a kid. We used to just play with one person's Pogs, and that person would get them back at the end. We just played to see who was the winner. But I could see how the, winning certain caps and walking away with different artwork and things like that could be fun. I would have been devastated. I definitely would have had a stack of Pogs that I was willing to play with, and other ones that I wouldn't have been, because I was into some of the brands that I collected. Being that Pogs were just these cardboard discs, they were very easy for other companies to make their own cool caps and, all kinds of other imitators, which was one of the reasons why the World Pog Federation was really big on having their Pog logo on everything and their Pogman, Captain Caveman ripoff mascot character on all their stuff. I found out about Pogs in the mid-90s there, 93, 94, around the time of Batman Nightfall. I went to the Philadelphia Comic Book Convention in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and while I was there, I got a chance to play Pogs. There were several booths handing out packs of Pogs as promotional items, but Skybox, I think, was the manufacturer of the DC Pogs at the time, and they had a little booth where you could go in and play and learn how to play it, and they would give you, a pack for playing. So throughout the day, I stopped by there a couple times, played games, and got a bunch of Pogs. And then, Pogs was just sort of a mainstream thing from that moment on. I can't quite remember if I knew of them before that, but it was definitely where I got my first Pogs. There's a possibility my buddy Derek had showed me the game beforehand, but I think that might have been my introduction. But he and I played Pogs a lot and collected Pogs and just kind of had fun with Pog Mania. Several years ago when I moved, I decided to slim my Pog collection down to just this stack. I had a little box full of Pogs. I actually ended up taking the extra Pogs into my work, and I thought about using them for motion photography practice with my photography students, and I have a few times. I did actually bring those Pogs home, though, in case I want to talk about them in this episode. But I did, like I said, slim my collection down to this one stack, and I figured we could check these out a little bit and see what Pogs I deemed my favorite. Along with Pogs, there were all kinds of different cases and things like that. This was the best case that I ever had. it was easy to open and easy to get them out. I had a off-brand case, too, like a tube, but the Pogs would get stuck in the end caps and were hard to get out. All right, so I've got an official Pog brand Pog there with the staple in it, because that's where like the little punch-out drink spout would go. These ones I always thought were cool because they were the official Pogs. And there's one in red as well. They came in multiple colors. Spawn? I don't know where I got so many Spawn Pogs. It wasn't really a thing that I collected, necessarily. I knew of Spawn, but it was kind of more mature reading than I was into at the moment. So I don't know if this was like a free Comic-Con one, or I don't know. We used to get them at school events, like, you know, they'd be like consolation prizes in games and stuff. Disney Pogs is an old classic postcard. I had this art on a postcard from Disney World as a kid, of Goofy driving the one ride. My favorite Slammer. This one is super thick acrylic. It's got this holographic sticker on it with dice inside it. My buddy Derek got this for me at a comic convention he went to in Chicago. Brought this back for me. This was my all-time favorite Slammer. There's the DC Slammer, Skycaps. Did I say Skybox before? Skycaps was the brand. This Slammer came at that comic convention. All right, this weird Neanderthal-looking guy. This was a series that I remember collecting, and you could actually put these Pogs in order and see like a little animation almost of the transformation, evolution from ape to caveman to human to like a cyborg. It's kind of a fun series. I don't know who made these, or I don't have any other information about them. Official Pog brand, Skull Pog. Skulls, Magic 8 Balls, snakes. Lots of subversive stuff was really big in Pogs. Here is a promotional Pog from the Quakertown Farmers Market. This is like a dirt mall, like a flea market, like whatever terms you want to use, antique shop. It's a little bit of everything, but this is where my toy collecting collection started. I used to go to the Q-Mart all the time as a kid and a teenager and as a college student, and bought the majority of my G.I. Joe collection there. Here we have another one of the evolving human. World Pog Federation Classic. So another pretty standard Pog. Bad Bones. Official Pog brand. Again with the skull. Here we've got a rocket. You remember Apollo 13 coming out? That was a great movie. I don't know if this is actually tied to that, but it certainly looks like a Saturn V rocket. Bane. Who Rules the Night? Pog 37. So there was a whole set of Nightfall Pogs. Like I said, this is kind of the right time period. Nightfall was a huge comic book event where Bane broke Bruce Wayne's back and Jean Paul Valley became Batman. My best friend's dad growing up wrote that comic series, so I was obsessed with everything Nightfall. And I was collecting some of these Pogs, and then Doug bought a case of those Pogs, or someone sent him a case of those Pogs. I think he bought it. And we got to sort them out, and he had 3 complete sets, I think, but only 1 set of the hologram Pogs from it. So Doug has a complete set with the holograms, and then he gave me a complete regular set. I think I have 1 hologram. There was like 1 extra hologram. I don't know if he gave another set to my buddy Brian or not. But, you know, there was like a core group of us that always hung out there all the time, and we're the right age to be into that stuff. We got another one of these evolving cavemen. The Demolition Man Pog. This came from that Comic-Con, again, Skycaps brand, but this came from that Comic-Con. They gave out a small pack of Demolition Man Pogs there. Pog Paris. There we go. We got the Pog Man on that one. Another Pog Man. No Madness. Another official Pog brand. Pog with the muscle car. Another green traditional Pog cap. The SR-71 Blackbird. Again, all the things that were cool in the 90s made it on Pogs. Another Pog. We got another Nightfall cap. Armor plating. We got a chromed out dinosaur Pog. Just some sort of psychedelic artwork there. Another caveman. Psychedelic glittery fish. American Game Caps. 1993. So again, another brand. This one says 820 on the back, so I don't know if this was like a game, like a lottery thing. I don't remember the story about where I got that from. There's the ape. And another caveman guy. Metallic Fish. Silver Moon Comics. Like I said, at that Comic-Con, everybody was handing out Pogs. There we've got the Cyborg again. A Gargoyle or Demon. Another classic. Bird's Eye View Tree Frog. Similar artwork to that glittery dinosaur. Ooh, a Tick Slammer. I was able to mail away, I think, or these came directly in cereal. But I think Chex Cereal maybe had the Tick promotion based on the Fox cartoon show, which I loved. So that's the Slammer from that set. The Nature Company, another classic. We've got some more of the Evolutions. Ooh, a second Q-Mart Pog. Another one of these holographic, demon-y looking guys. Ooh, a holographic bee with a missile on his back. Philadelphia Eagles Metal Slammer. The Metal Slammers I never quite understood. I mean, they're heavy. They're great for knocking over Pogs. But the metal ones sometimes would actually dent the Pogs. They were so hard and sometimes had sort of very squared off corners. So I was never a huge fan of playing with the metal ones, but I understood their appeal. Medusa. We've got another dinosaur. This one has little paper nibs on the side like it was punched out. I wonder if this was a promotional Pog that came in a magazine or in a kid's meal or something like that. Wolverine. Professor X formed a new team to rescue the original X-Men. Sometimes they had little info on the back, making them even more like trading cards. Here's a super rad skeleton. American Game Corps. Another dinosaur. And 1993, Hawaii, Shake, Rattle, and Roll. Pretty traditional looking cat. So those are the ones that I chose to keep when I slimmed down my collection. So those are some of my favorite ones that I owned, as well as that Nightfall set. But I do have this big bag of other ones, and I'm not going to go through every single Pog that's in here, because I just showed you kind of the coolest ones. But here's a great example. Figure 8 Pog, very common. This one has a giant dent in it from a metal slammer, like I was talking about. There's a shiny 8-ball slammer. There were some Z-Bot Pogs that came, I think, from some sort of Happy Meal. Again, they have the little punch tab fringes on the edge from, punching out of a bigger piece of cardboard. They were like die cut. Z-Bots, kind of surprised I didn't hang on to those. I'm sort of in a position now where I feel like I should rescue those Z-Bot ones. More of the Disney ones. I know I have a bunch of Lion King Pogs in here, but there's also just some random weird stuff. Like I said, Cool Caps, just some other random brand that had strange artwork on it. There really were Pogs for just about everything. Here's another metal slammer with a 8-ball on it. Like I said, that was very common imagery for Pogs. Kid Video, another one. I think my opinion of what I would have saved has changed some, but I'm not sure if I care enough to go back and swap some of these out. I think I found one of the weirdest ones, and I don't really know what the story is, but this says, will work for worms number 15. It has 95 on it, so I assume that's the year. It is not actually cap-shaped. It's die-cut into a weird shape to match the art. That is a strange Pog. Yin Yang, again, major imagery throughout Pogs. Anything else really cool here? I don't know. Oh yeah, I had a bunch of Lion King ones that came from Chex Cereal. Pogs was a fun fad. They were inexpensive to produce, so everybody made them, whether they were officially licensed or not. It was an easy game for kids to learn. So it was a fun little thing, a little fad that went through a certain time period, a time of Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers and Pogs. When I was in elementary school, one of the grades did a time capsule that was buried in the yard, and one of the things they put in there was Pogs. I think they had something with Pogs and some of the Pokemon in there, which were, elements of the time. My friend Derek and I even made Pog, battle mats. We would take a piece of cardboard, imagine cutting the bottom or the top of a shirt box out, and then we would take trading cards that we had doubles of, because in the 90s, everybody had tons of trading cards. I had Monsters in My Pocket and Superheroes and Batman Returns, and we would trace a Pog onto them and then cut out the circle, sort of making your own Pog. They were never cut well because we sucked at scissors, but we would then glue these Pogs down, or homemade Pogs, onto this board as sort of different starting points. You could make different stacks to play the game of Pogs. It was just a dumb kid's craft project, but it was something to do. It gave us, a little activity and a way to use up some of the extra trading cards that we had amassed, because if you collected trading cards or Pogs, you had tons of them. And, there's only so much trading you could do. Eventually, everybody had, 15 of the common cards from a popular card set. So that was a little fun thing that we used to do with our extra stuff. So you guys probably hear me plug my Patreon at the end of every episode. The $5 tier has a Discord option, and we have a little chat group going on there all the time, back and forth about different things. And I asked the guys on Discord if they had a favorite Pog as I was getting ready to shoot this episode. Joshua2814, who has been a longtime Patreon supporter and a good friend of mine, he sent me a picture of one of his favorite Pogs. It's OJ in the Slammer as a slammer. And what a time capsule that is. One, the O.J. Simpson trial was such a huge thing in the 90s. Pogs were a huge thing. And O.J. was in jail. This is a slammer, right? Slammer is slang for prison. Hilarious. I love that one. And also, that's on YouTube, a.k.a. Toy. Sent me a holographic slammer with a skull on it, which is a great image there. Similar, I told him about my Pog with the dice on it, same idea. So it was kind of fun getting to see some of these guys' Pogs. Everybody remembered Pogs. Some of them said they, had trouble searching ones that they had, finding them on the internet, because if you search for, a certain type of Pog, you get endless results. There are just so many Pogs out there. So it's hard to find the exact Pogs you had as a kid online unless you, still own some of them, or it's like a super specific series. But wanted to share those out with you guys because I thought they were cool. In the world of toy news, over the weekend, Pixel Dan has announced his Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles guidebook coming soon. He wrote a He-Man book that was fantastic. If you keep up with Dan on social media at all, you probably knew a Turtles book was in the work. He's posted pictures of himself photographing Turtles things here and there, as well as just he's been hunting a lot of Turtles stuff lately. Kind of with the same passion he had been hunting for He-Man stuff. A few years ago. So we knew this was coming, but it's exciting that he has announced it because that means it's coming sooner rather than later. Obviously, there's still a lot of work to be done. He covers so much and photographs the entire toy line for multiple toy lines in these books, and gets, good quality samples, not just like beat up versions, missing parts and stuff like that. So it's a ton of work. There's a lot of people that help Dan with these books. Collectors who share their collections with him. Val Staples helps with a lot of stuff, the guy that ran He-Man.org. So there's still work to be done. The book isn't, up for sale yet, but those details will be coming. And I gotta highly recommend it because Dan did a great job on the He-Man book, and I can't imagine the Ninja Turtles book being any lesser of a product. Also in book news, Carson from 3djoes.com has a poll up. He is going to be making a guidebook, something that you could take with you to conventions or estate sales while you're toy hunting. His guidebook will allow you to look at figures and their accessories to make it easy to check off what you have in your collection or what you're looking for. I love this idea. I have a first edition Mark Bellomo official guide to G.I. Joe that I take with me sometimes. It's awfully big to carry around at conventions personally. I've kind of switched to a paper list now as I'm getting my collection down smaller. But the paper list sometimes is a pain as well because it's not always color photos. Sometimes things aren't clear, even if I do print out pictures from yojo.com and things like that. Anyway, he has a poll up currently about the format of the book. There's an option to do a single volume of just the figures all the way through the Real American Hero line. There's an option to do figures and carded figures and loose figures, and it would be 2 different books to get the whole series done. There's also an option of doing the figures, the file cards, and the packaged figures as separate releases, 3 different books. So he's got basically taking a poll so he can offer what people actually want to buy. I voted for the pictures of the figures. I don't ever really feel like I need the file cards on the go or even the carded figures on the go. If I have a list of all the figures, that's kind of good enough to me. I would love a little checkbox for file card or carded, right? So I could kind of check them off because I just write them in my Mark Bellomo book on the page. I write complete if I have all their accessories. I write down MOC if I have a mint on card. I write down FC for file card. I write down full FCB for full card back if I own that. So I kind of have all that stuff tracked. When I did my episode about collecting toy guides, Justin from Farpoint Toys mentioned that he has a copy of Mark's book, but instead of writing all this stuff in there, he has Post-it notes over each one of the figures, and he writes down what he is missing or has them written down, and he crosses them off. and then when the thing's complete, he takes it off, so he has an unmarred book at the end. I really like that idea, but I started writing in my book years ago by just putting a small X next to the accessories when I got them, and then started my little codes of complete and card back and all that stuff. So I'm just kind of already locked into that system. Go vote for whichever version you would be interested in buying. 3D Joe's is an awesome website. Carson has done so much for the G.I. Joe collecting community, and I realize he needs to be able to generate income to fund that website. It's a huge amount of data he has to pay to store. So by producing these products, he can bring in, cash for the brand. And he already did the hardcover omnibus, which was incredible. He did the DVD digipack thing with interviews. So he's done a lot of cool products. The product that I want from him maybe is less than buying the 4 different books. So maybe he's hoping that would go. But, if too many people have my opinion, then he'll just release the one book, and maybe that's not as good. But that's kind of where I want to be for practicality, if I'm actually going to take this with me to do it. If I'm at home looking through this stuff, I can look at 3djoes.com on my phone or on my computer, or I can look through all the other reference books I have. But as far as like something that's a little bit easier to put in a backpack or a little easier to carry around in like a cargo pant pocket, I would love a small book that's just the figures and their accessories. I don't really need to read their file cards while I'm on the toy hunt. Some new releases from Jada Toys were shown off at a recent convention. Jada was not at New York Toy Fair this year, but they are doing some cereal mascot figures. Fred Flintstone and Barney Rubble from the Fruity Pebbles commercials as 2 different figures. Highly articulated. They look pretty good. Kind of fun way to get Flintstone characters or cereal mascots if you want to look at it that way. They're also doing Tony the Tiger from Frosted Flakes. I never really thought of, really being a cereal collector. I know there's people that collect like the Boo Berry and those guys, Captain Crunch, had some little premium toys. I have a few of those kind of things from over the years, but like, it's kind of fun. These figures, seeing them in this kind of style, sort of like an ultimate style. I'm interested to see what the prices are on them. I kind of like the Tony the Tiger, probably the most, but the Flintstone ones would be kind of cool. They also announced a Frosty the Snowman action figure. I just got the Super 7 Reaction one for Christmas. Now there's a new one. This one's a little bit more articulated. He comes with Hocus Pocus the Rabbit, which I love Hocus Pocus. It's pretty cool. There may be a few too many articulation cuts in this Frosty for my take. I don't love the one through his waist. He should just be a big snowball and just be articulated at the arms, in my personal opinion. But I'm waiting to see, again, what's the price like? Will they do any other characters? If they're not going to do anybody else from Frosty, I might just live with my reaction one. If they are going to do Professor Hinkle, then, maybe I do want the Santa in this scale, or Frosty in this scale. So I'm unsure on that one, but he does look cool. The last thing I have to show off is a new to the collection item. This one's been waiting to join my collection for a while now. My buddy Ryan from Monster FX, who's in a lot of the episodes with Tony from Heck the Movies, was at a toy store more local to him, but that I've been to lots of times, that was closing. And he sent me a picture of this amazing Starship Trooper bug. And said it was for sale there, and I was like, oh my gosh, he told me what the price was. I was like, yes, can you grab that for me? Now, he's had it for a little while because we just hadn't shot together in a while, but I was able to get this from him, and this is wicked. So cool. I would have loved to have had this as a kid to, fight the Colonial Space Marines from Alien, or to fight, G.I. Joe, like the Mega Marines. This thing is really cool. 1997, TPS, GTI. Not exactly sure who made this. Was this a Galoob thing? Did they make the toys for this brand? I don't know. But it looks really good. He's got a little articulation at the legs, a little articulation at the upper arms here. There's a button on his back, and there's some holes for like a speaker, so I assume it made sound at one point. I don't know if I can change the batteries or not. And his jaw is articulated there. Very cool. Super excited to add this to my collection. And not actually like a new toy, but a fun vintage toy to add to the collection there. Alright guys, in the comments down below, let me know if you remember Pogs. What was the coolest Pog you had? Please hit the like button. Let YouTube know this is good quality content. If you want to support the channel further, consider joining us on Patreon. But most of all, thanks for hanging on the peg with me.